Ms. Winstanley with us in Al Hadath in this coverage. So first, let me start by asking you, how do we read these messages, especially if we see the statements by the Iranian part and the U.S. Part, especially by Donald Trump, especially when it comes to these negotiations and the possibility of reaching the end of this war. So how do we see this contradiction?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And it is a contradiction. I believe the president is deliberately sending these mixed signals, as he has from the very beginning of the war, giving hope that it will wind down, at the same time taking actions to build it up and expand it. I believe many analysts are less hopeful today than yesterday about this war winding down quickly. But of course, the president's deliberate style is to be unpredictable. But when you move this many forces into a combat area, as the United States appears to be doing day by day, then the expectation is that they are going to be used. Several have talked about whether it would be taking over Harg Island, whether soldiers, a smaller group, might go into Tehran or near the nuclear facilities to try and confiscate the uranium. These are things that are on board. But as we have seen, increasing numbers of countries from around the world add their names to the effort to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and of course to condemn its closing, and the economic bite continues. The President Trump may indeed feel he's got that international pressure to get this done right. I will point out, however, that support has not increased domestically for this war.
So, in the context of what you said, Ms. Winstanley, Iran had also told mediators that they were tricked twice.
Mm-hmm.
And when we hear Trump, we feel that these negotiations are ongoing to the possibility of reaching something positive and maybe solutions. And how do you explain this position, especially now when he is talking about the regime and Trump is saying that there's a change in the regime in Iran? He did not say that we are before a new regime. He did not clearly said we want to change it, but he always says that there might be a scenario that is likely to the scenario in Venezuela.
Yes, he has said that. Many have reassured him, those who are familiar with the region and certainly the Iranians have repeatedly pointed out that Iran is not Venezuela. Hope dies eternal, as we say, and he continues with these deadlines, but I do not believe anyone should be surprised if a U.S. attack happens on tomorrow or Thursday, for that matter. We know that his deadlines can be false, as we know, as happened in June, where he said, up to 2 weeks. He did say up to 2 weeks, but people assumed 2 weeks. And of course, the war started beforehand. This time he has said 5 days, but we know that his deadlines can move. And I think we have to, there's an old saying, do you believe me or your lying eyes? The words that are coming out of the president and the administration is that negotiations are ongoing, that there are points of agreement, there's a 15-point plan being presented, and yet the military build-up continues. The strikes continue. So I do not believe that anyone should be sanguine that the war is going to wind down in 5 days. It is not reflective of the reality in the region. It's not reflective of the complexities of this relationship and these negotiations.
As you said, Ms. Winstanley, that before these 5 days, Donald Trump had already gave 48 hours. He said that he wants a quick war, he wants results, he doesn't want the war to be prolonged. However, we don't know how now the things will be developed. And in addition to that, do you think now when Trump talks about a present, a gift that is supposed to be given to him, especially now that he has linked this present with the oil issue, do we expect that there will be maybe concessions when it comes to the oil, or maybe facilities for the oil exports, or the de-escalation in the Strait of Hormuz? Or
Well,
do you think maybe a deal, oil, and oil, or calming the situation?
hmm. Well, there might be very good reason for Iran to open its oil industry to U.S. Uh, commercial interest and a deal of that sort. Certainly, after this war, there has been a great deal of economic and infrastructure and environmental damage done to Iran. Uh, all of the nations of the region are going to have to turn their attention to rebuilding infrastructure. And so that might be part of a deal. Again, the president has deliberately sent very mixed messaging out there. And though I personally believe that we should be more expecting of a resumption of or an expansion, because the strikes have not stopped. So an expansion of military activity, but indeed there could be. We know that mediators are making a great effort to try and bring the parties together. The discussion of the vice president taking over. It is a challenge for Special Envoy Witkoff to have credibility with the Iranians, I'm sure. But if he is a designated person by the president, he's a designated person. But mediators are trying hard, whether it's Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and we should not underestimate their abilities to move that part of it forward. But we are just going to have to watch. This is a lesson we have learned very clearly since last June.
Ms. Gina Winstanley, former U.S. Ambassador to Malta,